Okay, so I believe we have a quorum. And without further ado, we'll get started with tonight's Community Police Review Commission of the City of Richmond. Call to order at 7:03. Roll call, please. And then after roll call, I'm going to have Commissioner Oscar Garcia lead us in a pledge.
Chair Garcia,
Here.
Vice Chair Tunis,
Here.
Commissioner Diego Garcia, sorry, Commissioner Oscar Garcia,
Here.
Commissioner Hedstrom,
Here.
Commissioner Jackson,
Here.
Commissioner Joseph,
Here.
and Commissioner Lacy. Okay, you have quorum.
Sorry, perfect. Commissioner Oscar Garcia.
So we'll be doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll be doing a quick moment of silence too for the victims of Buffalo and Uvalde. So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And so now a moment of silence for the 10 victims of the Buffalo mass shooting, mainly elderly African Americans, and the 21 victims at Uvalde, mainly 8, 9, 10-year-olds. That, you know, a moment of silence for the families, and for federal legislators to pass meaningful gun control in this country. So please, a moment of silence for them.
Before we do that, Oscar, Yenny, if I might, I just read online that there was a shooting in Tulsa this afternoon. 4 people were killed at a hospital. So I would ask that we also observe those 4 people as part of this moment of silence.
Yes, I just read about that too. Thanks, Bruce. Let's have a moment of silence and keep those, I think, 4 victims, including plus the shooter in our, or not the shooter, in our thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. Okay,
So you'll be gone for a month.
I'm gonna ask commissioners, just reminder to keep your cameras on. If you absolutely cannot, I understand, but this is the Community Police Review Commission and transparency is big. So we want to make sure we're showing our community our faces. And if you're not speaking, please keep your audio on mute. I'm gonna have our Vice Chair Dal Tunis continue on leading the rest of the meeting.
All right, hello, everybody. Hang on a sec, let me just switch some pages here. I gotta get my agenda back up here. Balancing act here. All right, so I guess we've got the minutes from the last meeting. I don't know if everybody had a chance to take a look at those. Anybody see anything that they need changed in there? Go ahead, Carol.
I think we also had some minutes from February, did we not?
I didn't see those. Did
Yeah,
those get sent?
yeah, I sent those as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I just need to know what, if there are any issues, anything that needs to be corrected.
So,
Go ahead.
so I think that there was something that you said that I was the sponsor for, but I think it was really Randy.
Okay. Do you remember do you remember what set that is?
I'm
Is
trying to
that-
find, I was trying to pull those up. Hold on just a
Okay.
second.
Oh, I think it was from February and under. new
Right, the one
business?
from February.
Uh-huh. Okay. I'll
Oh
make-
yeah, I've got it open in a Word document. Here we go.
I actually
Yeah.
remember that too. Okay.
So, number 10, new business, and then item 2 under that, it says art. Oh, it does say art, Joseph. Wait, where was it? There was one that I thought. Oh, the stats. Wait, where? It says Hegstrom there, but I don't think that was me.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about under new business, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I don't think that was me. I don't
Yeah, it
remember.
was Randy. I actually remember that specifically.
Yeah, it was Randy. So if you could, so that's the only thing I noticed.
Okay, thank you.
And then I had one thing,
Okay.
Dominique, in the May minutes, just with my name, if you could just take the H out of there.
Okay.
So do we want to move to approve them with those changes?
Yeah, I move to make a motion to approve the minutes with those changes that were specified by Commissioner Hegstrom and Commissioner Tunis.
I'll second.
Okay.
Second by Carol.
Oh gosh. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Somebody called I'm on my laptop and somebody called my phone. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so Chair Garcia,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tunis,
Yes.
Commissioner Diego Garcia, Commissioner Oscar Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Hedstrom,
Yes,
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Joseph,
Yes.
Commissioner Lacey. Okay. 7 yeses. 7, yeah, and 2 absences.
Okay, before we continue, can I just please ask commissioners not to use the chat? And then for the public, if you have any comments or questions, to please wait to public forum to make those. Thank you. All right, now.
Sorry, I'm getting my mute in order here. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble getting my pages, all my pages open for some reason, so I can see the agenda.
I just want to so it's Commissioner Stephen Lacey will not be with us today. He will be absent.
Okay, so the other stuff was just the agenda review. Is there anything on the agenda that anybody sees that shouldn't be there, or?
well, if we don't have our council liaison, I guess we can skip that part.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll skip that.
And it also looks like Ben Terrio isn't here, but sometimes he shows up a few minutes late.
No, he's here. I keep trying to promote him to panelist, but he won't. It says he's declining it.
Okay, well.
Okay, he's joining now. Sorry.
So in the meantime, can we,
That's weird, Dominique. I'm sorry. I don't know why I was doing that.
Okay, I thought it was me, but okay.
all right, there, I see. See, we've got that now. Okay. All right, so then I guess we go to see if there's public forum. Dominique?
I see no one. No one here has their hand raised. No.
Okay, well, then let's jump forward there and let's get we got Ben's report from the,
Actually, it's our chief of police first. Is that gonna
I'm sorry,
be
Captain.
Captain Simmons?
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. I will be reporting on behalf of Assistant or Acting Chief Tyrona. I want to first start by saying our crime analyst has been out with COVID. I don't exactly know how serious it is, but I know that she's got symptoms that are not allowing her to even work from home. I mean, she's like in bed, resting, trying to get well. So the reason why you all did not get a ShotSpotter report or your regular crime analyst report is because she's been out of the office for a while trying to recover from COVID. When she does come back, I have a note to have her send those things, so you'll have them in writing for after the fact. So I don't have the crime stats or the ShotSpotter to give you in this report today, simply because I don't have access to it right now, but I will get it to you as soon as she gets back. So I've got a note to take care of that. I do want to give you the use of force stats. I also want to acknowledge that the commission made a request at the last meeting to have the use of force stats included in the packet ahead of time. Well, that was also included in the documents that our crime analyst was going to be sending over all at the same time. So that's partly why you didn't get that either, but I still have access to the use of force stats, so I will be giving you those. Just wanted to let you all know why there's a lag in information for this meeting as relates to that data. So for the month, we had a total of 6 use of force incidences. One of those involved a canine contact. One of those was just the use of our wrap restraint. One of those was a use of a taser, but it was not a taser deployment. It was just the what we call the painting of a taser, meaning that taser was pulled out but never discharged. The individual saw the taser and then complied, but we still report that as a use of force. If they had to use that, display that in any fashion to gain compliance, that's considered a use of force. And then 5 cases of body force. So with the canine and the body force, that's the 6th. And then we have the wrap and the taser surrender. So that is the use of force summary. I also have the staffing report, which is fairly detailed. So if you need me to repeat anything or slow down, I'm happy to do it because I have quite a bit of detail I'd like to give you in this report. I'll start with the sworn positions. So we are down a total of 30 sworn positions. And they break down as follows. 23 of those sworn positions are at the officer rank. 1 of those sworn positions is a vacant captain. 2 of those sworn positions are vacant lieutenants. 4 of those sworn positions are vacant sergeants. So a total of 7 in the supervisory category and 23 in the line level officer category, for a total of 30 sworn vacancies. We currently have 2 officers that are in the academy, which is good news. And we have 1 more that's slated to start the academy in June. So we will have 3 new officers that will be training in the academy. It'll be roughly about a year before we realize those individuals on the street, just because of how long the academy takes and then how long the training is thereafter. But still, that's good news that we're going to have 3 in the academy. And then we have 4 in training right now. So at various stages in the training program. So that's also really positive, good news. And then in terms of officers that are out on injury leave, we have 11 officers out on injury leave. So that's on top of the 30 vacancies. We have 11 out on long-term injury, LC 4850. We have 3 officers that are out on administrative leave for one reason or another. and 2 officers that are out on modified duty. And then 1 lieutenant on modified duty and 1 sergeant out on injury leave. So if you add all of that together with the 30 vacancies, that's another 18 sworn personnel that are unavailable to fulfill their regular duties right now for either admin leave, modified duty, or long-term injury leave or sick leave. Yeah, I've got a question, Randy.
So you said 11 officers out on injury and 11 officers out on long injury, or that was
No,
the
no,
same?
no, that's the same 11.
Okay.
It's just 11.
Okay.
Yeah, just 11.
Cool. I was thinking I was behind anything. All right.
Yeah, no, yeah, just 11. So that's our sworn numbers and our professional staff. We have 6 dispatch vacancies in our dispatch center. Good news is we got 2 dispatch candidates that are finishing the background process, and we expect them to be able to start the dispatch training program in June. So that's great news. That'll bring us down to 4 vacancies there. Record specialists, we have 3 record specialist vacancies, but we are interviewing candidates. We have interviews set up 2 weeks from now to interview potential candidates for those vacancies. Property technician, we have 1 vacancy, but we also have 1 potential candidate that has just been started in the background process. So that'll be great if that candidate passes background and is able to be hired, then we'll be fully staffed in our property vault. Our crime analyst, so this is actually a really important one to get filled. We have a crime analyst assistant that is budgeted and funded that has been vacant for quite some time now. And interviews are scheduled for next week. I actually saw the list there and some really good candidates to be interviewed for that position. That's a great one that you all should be particularly interested in, because when something happens with our current crime analyst, we don't have this lag in getting information out to you, because there's always going to be somebody there that backs that up and is able to gather the data that we need or that we're asking for. Parking enforcement, we have 2 vacancies currently in our parking enforcement unit. And then we just put 2 candidates into the background process. So hopefully both of those potential parking enforcement candidates pan out, and then we could have a fully staffed parking enforcement unit, which I am particularly excited about, because I spend a great deal of my day talking with residents that are not happy about the parking situation throughout the city. So it'll be nice to have some reinforcements to help interface with some of those folks and solve some of those problems. So that concludes my chief's report.
Awesome. Well, you got a lot of good stuff there. Thanks for sharing that with us. Does anybody have any other questions? Randy, do you still have a question, or is your hand still up?
No, I have a question, but Oscar just went up first.
Go ahead, Oscar.
No, I think you were up first, Randy. Go for it.
How many total officers are you budgeted for?
145.
145. And then last year it was 157.
57, I believe. Yes. Yeah.
That's all I have for now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Oscar.
Yeah, I had a question around the recruitment. I thought I read or heard that police departments are starting to offer pretty sizable signing bonuses. Is the city evaluating such an option? I think I heard Antioch's offering a couple or sizable sign-up bonus. Is Richmond considering something similar?
Yes. So thank you for that, Commissioner Garcia. You're correct. Most of the cities around us are offering sizable signing bonuses to attract both lateral officers and smaller signing bonuses, but still significant to attract newer officers. So that is happening around us. At this time, the city of Richmond's not considering anything like that, primarily because they're in collective bargaining with the POA, and a lot of the financial side of all of that has got to get worked out through MOUs, through the MOU process before there will be anything of that nature.
So when is the, sorry, I'll let Randy go and I'll ask my next question.
No, go ahead, Oscar. Finish your thought.
When is the contract update expected to be wrapped up?
So that would probably be a better question for the POA president, Terrio. I do know that their contract expires July 1st. So it's right around the corner here, and I'm not totally sure how much progress they've made, but that would be a great question for him to answer.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so I have, my question falls more so, I know we were here last month, we were talking about the common pass study. Did y'all get that from the city?
Negative. So the classic comp study has been released to the city council. The city council has given the city's negotiators direction. We don't know what that direction is. It's just been stated as they've been given direction to go back to the bargaining units and engage in conversation. I can tell you as the PMA president, I have not been contacted yet by any negotiator. I don't know if Ben has or not. But to be honest with you, Randy, and I thank you for asking that question, because we have been asking and asking and asking and asking and asking. And it's because they've had the information for a long time. And the straight answer is no, we still don't have the data or the information.
And then you said that you know that the city council got it within the last month. Because when the last month we were here, the city council said they did not get it.
My understanding is they got it in closed session at the last meeting. And it was reported in open session that the council gave direction to the negotiators. So that was how I became aware that, okay, well, at least somebody got it now, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and then the HR director sent out an email to all the union presidents giving a timeline of like when they'll come and talk to us about it. It's sometime towards the end of June, I think. Don't quote me on that date, but it's mid-June, end of June, they're going to come talk to us. Yeah.
Okay. And then I know we didn't talk about crime data and crime stuff because you don't have it, but can you give us and the community a sense on what's going on in the city? Like, can you give us like an overview? Meaning like, it's usually the time of the month. I'm currently not there. I'm in Dallas, but clearly it's firecracker season, like people like to call it, or, you know, the end of the school year, things like that. Can you give me a sense of what's going on in the city and how the police are viewing it?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, actually. So just actually today, Acting Chief Tarona had a meeting with the West County chiefs, and they are all getting together to formulate, basically sign an MOU agreement amongst each other to collaborate and have I hesitate using the word task force, but essentially that's what it is, for a couple of days leading up to the 4th of July, where we'll have combined resources with the West County departments to address the abuse of fireworks on a larger scale throughout Richmond, San Pablo, El Cerrito, Pinole. And so we're going to participate in that. I actually just got a calendar invite for a meeting with the other commanders on that today. So we have not had a problem start yet with the fireworks that has been reported or that I've heard or seen, but we are preparing now for a collaborative effort with neighboring cities and agencies to hopefully address that issue. We've also been dealing with preparing our units with active shooter training. And actually, I was going to touch on this a little bit with my union report. So I don't want to kind of get ahead of myself here, but that's been in light of what's happened in Texas and even out in Buffalo, New York. You know, the old saying is you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And that's kind of the message we're wanting our officers to have, is to be prepared to respond appropriately, be prepared to respond according to training. So we're revisiting a lot of what we know to be the right response in those areas. So I can tell you that's a hot topic, hot discussion. SWAT teams have been training. As a matter of fact, even community groups. Crescent Park just had a active shooter drill for residents in their neighborhood last week. As I think some other community groups are doing the same thing. So there's been nothing super significant though, Randy, for me to report that's out of the order. We've had some incidences, like we had a pretty violent home invasion robbery last week. We got everybody in custody on it though. But nothing, no trend is sticking out right now as being something super problematic from the last time that we met.
Thank you. And then my last question, I've been involved in my task force work with unhoused interventions and pretty much dealing a lot with Riding Road and the other homeless encampment, and just talking to, you know, community members there in those situations. Can you talk about how the police deals with both of those situations in terms of, you know, you hear some places by community members about police flashing lights in the middle of the night, but then you hear like, hey, we've had meetings with the police and they're saying, hey, we're trying to keep y'all safe in that area. Can you talk about what steps is being taken and how's that working out?
Yeah, so there's a couple things to that point. One is we've assigned beat officers where those, specifically speaking of Castro and Ryden, those two are the specific ones, where we've tasked them to start engaging with folks that have taken leadership roles who live in those encampments, but they've taken on leadership roles of being influencers in those communities and being somebody that folks who live in those communities are trusting and building a relationship with that beat officer by way of being able to help disseminate information and connect with other folks. An example of that today, actually, I was out at Castro for about an hour doing exactly what we're just talking about. The emergency alert system that's on that side of the city connected to Chevron burned down. So we spent about an hour over there today, well, a little longer than an hour, providing the folks on Castro lunch and talking with them about the change in sound they're going to hear, because until that alarm by their community gets repaired, they're going to have to rely on an alarm that's coming from a further distance away. So getting them out of their homes, letting the alarm go off so they can hear the different sound, talking with them about the evacuation points. So we actually had a really great exchange. There was close to 100 residents that came out and that we were able to talk to one-on-one over a lunch, over a meal, about some of these safety concerns, community warning, evacuation, stolen vehicles that are being found in the area, just basic crime related things associated with their encampment in a very humanistic conversation way. And it went really, really well. And that's kind of the format we're encouraging.
Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oscar.
I had seen, I forgot to ask this earlier, I had seen that even captains were doing patrols for a while there. What has been the staffing like recently? Have there been any gaps like that where?
Yeah. So that was also going to be something I was going to cover, Oscar, in my, can I just do you guys mind if I transition into my union report? Because a lot of this I'll cover.
Yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Go right ahead. Yeah.
So to end, I'll start with that, the staffing issue. So to reflect on the 30 vacancies, we are currently in a mandatory overtime sign up protocol. We're finishing the first 60 days of that. And I just ordered, as the patrol captain, I just ordered a lieutenant to start signups for another 60 days. So we're going to run that all the way through the summer. I am projecting that we're going to need to do this all the way through the end of this deployment year. So that will be, if things don't change, we'll have to continue to do this at least through December. Right now, the ask is during each sign-up cycle, officers are required to sign up for a minimum of 3 overtime shifts. And then if there are leftovers, then we start a reverse seniority sign up from the bottom up, and it's 1 per person going on up. What I've chosen to do as the patrol captain is when we get to the bottom, the shifts that are left over, I'm trying to work as many of those as I can. I do not get paid overtime, but I refuse to stand by and watch my folks that I'm responsible for have their world tipped upside down, their life turned upside down, and not being able to go home. And then I get to go home and work my regular schedule. So rather than forcing them over and having them work additional overtime shifts beyond what they're being forced to work, I'm picking up a lot of those shifts and coming in and working them on patrol in addition to my regular responsibilities. I think that as management, we have a responsibility to take a lead and not just kind of look at it from a distance. That's not my style. So it has been me, the one that has been doing that. And I plan on doing that again this time around. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from the rank and file. Ben might have a different perspective on that, or he might have something from the rank and file different on that. But from my point of view as a police manager, I feel like we're in this together. And it's not just the POA that's in it. It's we are all in this together, and we're going to do this together. So that's been happening. We're getting ready to start another 60 days of that to push us through the summer. I recently, yesterday actually, we have an overtime maximum per pay period cap that has been set by the chief of police, and that was at 64 hours of overtime per pay period. I have recently lifted that for the purpose of, there are some officers, because in addition to the forced overtime that they're having to sign up for, we are also having a significant amount of sick calls and COVID related vacancies. So those are additional vacancies that can't be anticipated. All of the mandatory overtime that officers are having to sign up for is all of the anticipated stuff. We have vacancies, we know vacation, we know training days, things of that nature. So we know where those holes are going to be 60 days out. And to maintain minimum staffing, we're having officers sign up for those holes. Where we can't predict is when we get somebody that's out on bereavement leave, which we have had a few of those, sick calls, just regular sick calls. And then of course, COVID related stuff where somebody's out for a week or longer. And we've had a number of those as well. So those create situations where now, on top of officers signing up for overtime, mandatory, you have officers being forced over from the previous shift into the next shift to fulfill the minimum staffing vacancies that were not predicted. You guys tracking with me so far on the difference between the two? Okay, great. So there are some dynamics in patrol where you've got some younger officers that they're not feeling burned out. They're not feeling stressed out in that same way. And they don't have the same obligations at home that they're trying to get back to a family or whatever the case might be, who have come to me and said, you know, if I had the capacity of being able to work that shift, I would have volunteered to stay later because I feel great and I'm ready for it. And I would have allowed the officer that was being forced over, that is at the end of their rope, is not feeling like they're capable of working more, that would have allowed them to go home. So, but that officer couldn't do that because he was at the cap, the maximum amount of per pay period overtime they're allowed to work. And I had a number of those. That's just one example. So to accommodate for flexibility in this situation, where those that want to stay can stay, those that need to go home can go home, I raised the cap to allow some extra room for some of that flexibility throughout each pay period. So that's something that's new. And that's temporary. And the directive right now is it will expire at the end of this deployment year, at which time we'll reevaluate. If we have to keep it, we'll keep it. If we can drop it back down to the old cap, we'll drop it back down to the old cap. The other thing I wanted to make public is I really wish Councilwoman Jimenez was on the call, because I wanted to thank her publicly, but I will thank her to you all. She took the time. So last week, we had a training scheduled, an active shooter training schedule. And some of you might have gotten wind of this training that was going to be scheduled. And it was the day after, coincidentally, it was the day after the Texas incident had occurred. This training had been planned since January. So 5 months ago, this training day was planned. And it coincidentally, the active shooter training happened to land the day after there was an active shooter incident in Texas. As a result of some of the folks in the community finding out about this training, it was a little bit triggering for those folks. And it came off as being maybe a little bit insensitive that the next day there's going to be this big police presence at this vacant school, and perhaps that was bad timing. So we actually moved that training from that location, and we moved it outside of the city to a remote location where it wouldn't impact any community whatsoever. But it sent seemingly a kind of a negative message at the time. So there was a lot of connections that I was making with folks in the community to really kind of clear the air on it. And I wanted to thank Councilmember Jimenez, because she took the time to get a hold of me, to get clarification and to find out exactly what the situation was. And then after she did that, she took the time to go back to some of the community members that she had connections with that did not have the whole picture. And she took the time to clear the air with them. And that to me was a great example of a partnership that, I mean, she was reaching people that I couldn't reach, and she took the time to get to the bottom of it and really get a 360 picture rather than just a snapshot. So I wanted to say thank you for that to her, but I'll acknowledge it with you folks. And that concludes my PMA report.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any other questions for Captain Simmons? All right. Again, thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the report by Richmond Police Officers Association, Mr. Ben Terrio.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Oh, I think-
Are you
I'm
guys
sorry.
doing, there's a public speaker?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Let's take, sorry.
Okay. So come get it. So it is PRNC Buzz Bayless. Okay. Are you there, Buzz Bayless? Buzz Bayless, are you there? Hold on, maybe. Okay. Are you there now?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm signed in under the wrong login. I apologize for that. This is
Okay.
Lisa Johnson.
Oh, okay. You have 2 minutes, Lisa.
Yeah.
You can begin.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I know that you guys normally can't answer questions by the public, but I was wondering if Captain Simmons could address whether or not RPD is currently capable of promptly answering all 911 related incidences, or if maybe you pick up the call, but are police able to respond to all of them in a timely manner, or is the current capacity now hindering that as well? Thank you.
So yes, we are capable of answering all 911 calls. They are in a priority system. So you have like a priority 1, priority 2, and that is lights and siren code 3. We're going to get there. There's 9 officers working minimally at all times. Now, when you start talking about like a priority 3 or a priority 4, those details, I guess the word promptness is more of a relative term, depending upon, those will pend and hold a little bit longer until we can get to those after all of the other priority calls have been answered. Oftentimes, I'll say it like this, oftentimes there are calls pending on the board from one shift to the next shift. So when the next shift starts, they have kind of a list of priority 3, priority 4 calls that the shift before them could not get to. So it might take a little while, but we do our best to get to those.
Sorry, before you move on, Captain Simmons, I wanted to know if you can answer this question for me. I know way back, I worked with Ben on this about raising the threshold, how many dispatchers can be had because I know y'all were at a limit and we're trying to make sure that we increase that limit to have what dispatcher says. Have you heard anything from city council or anything regarding that? Because if not, that's something that I would want to focus on as well, because that's something that I know the task force brought up that it was passed and we wanted to get that focused on too. I forgot about it.
I do recall you guys working on that, and outside of the information that came out of you guys working that, I haven't heard anything outside of that conversation.
Thank you. I wish the city council person was here to ask that question, so I'll ask that question offline.
Okay. All right, well, let's switch over to Ben Terrio for the Richmond Police Officers Association. Go ahead, Ben.
All right,
Ben.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Ben Terrio, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. Good evening, Commission. I don't want to spend too much time beating up on the same issues, the staffing. People have questions about that. I know there were some things that popped up during previous conversations with Captain Simmons. I'll just say this about the active shooter situation, because I've had some of these questions in other veins and other things that I've been involved in. The standard practice, what was done there, that is not the standard. It's definitely not the standard in California at all. So that type of response, how that was executed by the responding officers, that's not how people are trained here in California, which quite frankly is why obviously it's not perfect and always needs improvement. California law enforcement training is the pinnacle standard compared, I would say and argue, comparatively speaking, to other parts of the United States. Active shooter training, was not the appropriate response at all. And the decisions that were made in that were, I think, wrong, and there needs to be some accountability for that, obviously. With regards with the training, it's good that it's good to hear what Captain Simmons said about Councilmember Jimenez, actually reaching out and getting some of the facts instead of people just kind of shooting from the hip. That is because that's how a lot of false information gets out there. So it's good. It's good to hear that. I understand some people's concerns about the training. I think it's probably appropriate to have that type of training, active shooter training, because we're doing crisis negotiating training with the SWAT team as well. And because that's how we work hand in hand when we do these types of trainings. Doing it at I think it's good training to have though around the school areas, so that the SWAT team and the crisis negotiators actually have proper involvement with the where we're working at. Those types of things probably should be done on the weekend, and that's just going to be from the labor side, the POA side, kind of our suggestion for things like that in the future. Do it on the weekends so people will be less likely to be alerted or afraid of something being real when it's not. And it's really just to train people, so we make sure that we provide the appropriate response when some type of tragedy, God forbid, should happen. So I'll say that that's what I'll cover covering on the active shooter stuff. And then beyond that, the staffing issue with dispatch center is a huge issue. Professional staff in general, filling professional staff positions is a significant problem. And I've said it time and time again, I'm going to keep saying it. The issue of sworn staffing is also a significant problem and unsustainable. And quite frankly, the city council needs to get involved and give appropriate direction to get some of these things fixed. You have the city of Antioch offering $60,000 to provide a housing supplement to convince people to come live in the city, which I think is great from a perspective of someone who lived in Richmond for many years. As a police officer, I think that's a great type of ideal and program, because it gets people invested in the communities that they work and they serve in. And then also having hiring bonuses. Law enforcement officers are going to get, are going to go by the way of engineers. They're going to get the human capital, because no one is trying to do this job. So people who are good and are marketable are going to do really well. The city of Oakley, that's in East County of Contra Costa County, just got a new contract. They will now police officers in Oakley will now make more than police officers in Richmond. A police officer who works in the eastern part of our county, closer towards the San Joaquin County Delta line, is going to make more than someone who works in the inner Bay Area. So when you factor in driving, gasoline, all that, you other factors of bridge toll, also just cost of living in general. If people live in the inner Bay Area, people are going to make choices and they're going to move with their feet. And the city of Richmond has not had despite many pleas and asks by the POA to have meetings about the impending contract that was going to expire, we've not had a meeting. We have not received anything regarding any further negotiations for almost 60 days, 2 months. So that's what your city leaders are doing, which is nothing, and they need to get on it. Now, just so everyone knows, when a contract expires, doesn't mean obviously cops, we can't strike, although I wouldn't mind to prove a point out of a few things, but cops, it's for police officers, it's illegal for us to strike. However, with my labor hat, I think it would enlighten some folks about how the world really works when there's not something stable to ensure that there's order in a free society like ours. That being said, what happens when a contract expires, like ours is about to in July, is it continues in the same fashion. So it's the same rate and everything. So nothing changes. I just don't want people to, because for different types of labor organizations, it can mean different things. I don't want people to be confused about that. It just means everything stays the same. However, the longer you go out of contract, generally speaking, it's very, very rare for public safety people to be out of contract, but the longer you go out of contract, the more apprehensive people are going to be. And again, the more likely they're going to move with their feet. So I just want to put that out there so people understand, well, that's not some doom and gloom. July 1st, people are just going to walk off the job. That's not what that means. Just for everyone's understanding. So they're not going to beat up the staffing report is what it is. Captain covered that. And if you're not alarmed by it, I don't know what to say. And that's all I have.
We got some questions. It looks like Carol.
Yeah, so I'm really concerned about all the forced overtime because it seems to me that people being a police officer is a very stressful job and you need downtime. You need time to just go home and unwind from the day. And if you're not getting that and it's day after day, or you come home and you've got all family or whatever it is, so my question to you, Ben, is how are the officers doing? Are they able to do a good job with all this forced overtime? Is it really starting to take a toll on how they function and how they feel?
Thanks for that question, Commissioner Hagstrom. I think it depends on the person and what they all have going on in their life. Some people are handle that better than others. But in general, yeah, I mean, people are there, as the captain spoke about earlier, there's a certain level of extra shifts and stress that's going to come with that. So it just depends on how people handle that. Some people like to work a lot, others do not. And it's kind of a generational change from when Captain Simmons and I started, where when we started, the culture at the time was to work a lot of overtime, and that was normal we wanted to be at work all the time. The younger, newer generation of folks, not so much. But there's a few, like you spoke about earlier, who were like, well, I'd like to work more if I could, but generally, but on the whole, as a group, they're not, they don't like to work as much overtime as we did when we were their age, as ridiculous as that sounds, but that's the best way I can equate to it. Not that it rolled. So it plays a factor. The longer you have cops out there, I mean, I had to do an 18-hour shift this weekend. That's pretty standard right now, that at one point or another, we're going to have to do a long shift in our cycle. I'm on the 3-day cycle, so I already work 12 and a half hours as a standard. And then at one point or another, I know I'm probably gonna have to work an extended shift, and that's an 18-hour day. Am I at my best performance? No, absolutely not. So you can take that from what you will.
Go ahead, Randy.
I just want to know Ben just called all his friends old. No, my questions, a couple of questions. One, this is the first I heard of active shooting day after, because I'm literally in Texas when the shooting happened, so I didn't hear what was happening in Richmond. So for me to hear that active shooting drills are happening, like I think that's important, because until the gun laws change, stuff like it's happening every day. Like there's been more active shooting, like mass shootings, than days in the year so far. So like that's something that we continually have to be a top on. I agree, maybe a weekend would be a better opportunity to do those trainings, but those trainings have to, I'd rather you be like, you say, stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for that. My question, I thought we followed up about, I know me and you worked together about the dispatcher.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't heard anything, and that's been concerning to me for the last couple of months. Have you heard anything about that as well?
You talking about a reimagining?
Yeah.
So we just had a subcommittee meeting where we were going to start talking about it. So it just got fired back up again.
Okay.
For
So
what it's worth. And that was like a week ago.
Okay. So I'm glad that, so we can get that started. My secondary, my other question is that how, I don't know if you can answer this question, but kind of knows a lot of negotiations. Are y'all closer to making sure y'all have a contract, or y'all just like on?
No, I'll be as transparent. I can't be there. There's a level of transparency that I only can provide, but I'll say this: we provided the city with a litany of requests. We haven't heard back from them in 2 months.
Okay.
So I mean, like it's not like they send us something back and we were like, oh, that's terrible. And I can't get into the details of what it was, but what I can tell you is that we sent the ball is in their court. It's been in their court for TikTok 2 months, and that's where we're at. So
basically, you sent them a letter and you haven't gotten an answer in return.
Pretty much. You want to equate it that? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, just trying.
Keep it simple. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. And then my last question is, dealing with that and dealing with the overtime, are people still using the mental health apps and the stuff that you guys had tools before? Are officers still using that material?
The captain is probably better equipped to talk about that in general, but I don't know if he's still on or not. But but I do know there have been several members who have used services involving mental health, and obviously that's about as thick as it. I'm going to get into it, but he probably has better like statistical information. But yeah, there have been some members who use that, and we encourage that. We're trying to break these stigmas, unfortunately, that are profession wide. So, and that takes time, but we're working that way. 5 years. I guess maybe I said this last time, but 5 years ago, if I had mentioned that I was going to go to a mental health training or a symposium or anything like that, I would have gotten a lot of side eye. 10 years ago, I would have gotten laughed at. They probably would have wanted my police star because they would have thought I was crazy. So, it takes time, but maybe that captain probably talk about that in more detail.
All right. If you can,
I was going to say
that'd be a picture.
The stat I can give you on that is we're almost at 100%. So we don't track who uses it. Because we want people to truly like have that anonymity, right? Of feeling like they can access services without Big Brother watching, which is great. But we do know how many downloads of the app have been made. And we're almost at 100% of what our staff is with the number of downloads, which to me is a great number. That tells me that people at least have access to it. They've taken the time to put it on their phone, and that's a starting point.
Yep, that's step one. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Captain Simmons, for answering
no problem.
There's one public speaker.
All right, let's hear that.
Okay, it's Carol Johnson. Let me get my clock up. I'm sorry, Lisa Johnson.
Lisa, I was just gonna say.
Sorry.
I am signed in with the correct name now. I see.
Sorry. Okay, Lisa, you have 2 minutes. You can start now.
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment as a member of the public and in conversations with numerous people across the city that there is significant concern about the mental welfare of our officers at the moment and with their mental health, given the current status and the amount of overtime that they're having to work and how that translates not only into our safety, but their own safety. So I just know that with the numbers that Captain Timmons reported, with 145 sworn officers approved, they're down 48. That takes us to 97 officers. That doesn't account for those out on vacation, sick, or bereavement leave at any given point in time. It also doesn't take into account, and this is my current understanding, and Captain Timmons, please correct me if the numbers are wrong, that there are about 18 officers eligible for retirement by the end of June 30th this month. And then another additional 6, I believe, for a total of 24 through December of next year. That would take us down from 97 to minus the 24, 73 officers. And yes, you have a few that are in the academy, but we can't hire our way out of this mess. We can't. And so my request to the commission is we can send letters from the public to the council, but I think if they're as a commission, if you guys can agree or something, if you would be willing to discuss potentially writing a letter expressing your concerns about this and asking them to help address the situation, I think it would go a long way because the community's voice is insufficient at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any of the public speakers.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on. Yenny, are you gonna pick up here?
Yes, thank you, Del. Okay, so we'll continue on. Thank you, everyone that gave our reports. We'll go to our old business and discussion items, with the first item being update on report status pending and completed investigation. Mr. Tree.
Good evening. So I'm going to combine the two in a single report, if that's okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
So I completed one investigation since the last time we got together for a meeting, and that adds to the other two that are on the closed session agenda for tonight. There also was one new complaint that was filed with the CPRC, which alleges anti-immigrant bias by an officer in the investigation of a domestic violence incident. And I've reached out to the complainant about that a couple of times, but haven't heard back yet. The complainant is not actually the victim of the domestic violence. It's a doctor at a health facility where the victim appeared. So I likely will need to utilize the translation service for this investigation. So the logistics may be a little bit more complicated, but it's the last investigation I have in my list. Also, following the commission's direction that I request use of force data from the department and begin the analysis, I have met with RPOA President Theriault to discuss any issues that might be involved with that. And we are have been waiting for the acting chief to come back from vacation to meet with the chief about getting the data and starting that process. I think the chief is back, and we're hoping to get a meeting next week with him for that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or discuss any concerns.
I don't have any questions. Any commissioner? Randy?
Hey, yeah, I got a question. I know one of the things that we got made like when we got it, it wasn't really a actual complaint, if that makes sense. My question, and I don't know if anybody can answer, I don't know if I'm actually in the right space, is what do we do with that? Because like, I don't know if we can share it on here. I don't know if we can talk about it in another sector, because the allegations were disturbing, but it wasn't really a complaint.
If you mean the one that did not fit within the purview of the commission, is that the one you're talking about? You're on mute.
It came last couple of days ago. Let me go to my emails real quick. I'm looking at
Yeah,
I'm
I,
looking.
I know the one you're referring to. That actually had come in earlier, and it went out by mistake a couple of days ago for a second. The
Okay,
second time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So what I will say, Randy, is that I did ask so it was sent for us to review or talk about, discuss any complaint that comes in. It needs to be formally made. That wasn't formally turned in.
Okay.
It wasn't signed by anyone. And so to discuss it in this space, we can't. There were questions offline where I would still prefer to get those just so that we know that we got it. We wouldn't be able to do anything with it unless somebody actually signed the complaint form and turned it in, and then there will be a discussion if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Maybe I think maybe because something that Jerry can, maybe it's something offline to talk about, like, hey, what's happening here? What can we do go forward? And then I'll bring that up then. Okay, thank you.
And then the other area where we can bring that up is within our purview is when we are making recommendations on policy changes or anything else, we can get those things and say, we have gotten this in the past that, it's not within our purview, but then we can suggest updates or changes or any other things. Okay, Mr. Treat, would that be all for the
Yes,
report?
that's it.
And any public speakers?
No.
Okay, so then we're gonna go on and move on to our closed session. Any public speakers for that before we go into our closed session?
We have
I
new
think there's
business.
another section.
Oh, I'm
before
so sorry. Can you tell I want to go home? I am so sorry. So
Me
let's
too,
go
yeah.
on to, I know, I'm right, we all want to. So new business, Commissioner Joseph, let's go ahead and review our CPC flyer. You're muted.
Randy, you're muted.
I know I wasn't talking. I was trying to find it.
Would you like me to share it on my?
Yeah, can you share? Yeah, can you share it on the screen? Because my Google Chrome is going crazy, and it just shut down on me.
All right. Is everyone able to see the screen?
Hey, everybody, can y'all hear me? All right, so me, Chair Kenny Garcia and Commissioner Diego Garcia, got a lot of Garcias, came together to try to work on a flyer for the Community Police Review Commission. We tried to balance the type of information with something where it can be user-friendly, both in English and in Spanish, so that community members can know who we are, know key information about what you do, what to do, and how to visit our website, and then from there learn how to get complaints and stuff like that. This is the first draft of it. I will say that today I added under the QR code what the QR code is, and that's if you scan that with your camera, it will go to the CPRC website, so you can get more information and also talk about get more information, and then possibly if you have a complaint to make a complaint, but it's just to the website. We try to make it as informational as possible. We try to put as much information as possible. I think the last flyer didn't have a lot of who we are. It was just more like it was more like, hey, we're the CPRC. If you have any questions, come here about this, and really didn't get into a lot of detail. And we wanted to talk about the detail of who we are, because a lot of questions when they hear CPRC, Community Police Review Commission, they don't know who our purpose, they don't know who we are, they don't know what our scope is. They're trying to answer those questions and how to make a complaint. So we put that into the scan, the QR code, to try to make it young and hip. If there's any questions, please ask. Like I said, this is just a draft. We're not finalizing it, but we wanted to get feedback from the community and the other commissioners here to ask those questions.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. I'll stop sharing now, and if anyone has questions.
Can you leave it up? Can you leave it up just so so people can see and ask questions while we go through that. That would be helpful. And then I saw Ben first, and then we'll get to Commissioner Hextrom.
Sorry, yeah, I just really want to say, I know a lot of you guys are on the commission have been trying to get something like this for a long time. I mean, I think it looks really good. QR code's a really good ad. And yeah, I know that's been a priority for a long time. It's really good for informational sake to have this out there. So good job. And I hope that help clears out a lot of information for people.
Thank you, Ben. Go ahead, Commissioner Hextrom.
Okay, so I agree, it's really good, and it has a lot of information that we need. I just have sort of one suggestion which has two parts to it. And so part of when I first came to the commission, we had a flyer, but it had so much text on it that it was like really hard to read because there was too much on it. And one thing that I think would be nice to have that we don't on this one would be how people can go to our meetings, when our meetings are and where they are, you know, how they can join. So my suggestion is maybe you could, and this is, I'm just throwing this out here because I do like this one, but there's what would you think about making it a two-sided, you know, have the basic information on the front, and then on the back, maybe have how to file a complaint, how to go to the meeting, when our meetings are, how to go to the meetings, and then have a separate one for Spanish. So instead of having it English one side, Spanish the other, you have a two-sided handout.
Yes. Let me answer that question, because that's something that I thought about when we originally started to talk about doing this. Is one, the cost. We're dealing with limited fund here, and then two, like you said, the amount of information. So if you're going to put a double-sided with a lot of information, what are the chances people will use it? And that's why we tried to put the QR code to get people. And like I said, this is incomplete because under the QR code it will say the CPRC website what all that information will be found. I can probably put something to clear that up. And I think that could be something, but if Chair Garcia and then Commissioner Diego Garcia felt that we needed a back, just especially the when our meetings are, and it's kind of hard to put our meetings because then you have to put a Zoom link, and you can't put a Zoom link on a damn flyer because you can't click on it and go to the Zoom.
No, but so can I interrupt for a second? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So that brings up sort of a side point here, which is that our website also doesn't have a link to our meetings, which is too bad because our website says that we meet in the basement at City Hall. And if anybody went there on that time when it clearly says that's where we meet, when we meet, they wouldn't find us there. So that, but if this QR code went to a site, because I did check it, it doesn't go anywhere right now. But once you get it set up,
it will.
Yeah, once you get it set up to go somewhere, if you could have I mean, maybe not everybody can do the QR code, but it is easy way to get to a site. And then you could have a link, make sure that you update it with the link to the meeting. That would be great. I think that would be excellent.
Yeah, and that would be a website question. If so, I will link up with Dominique and make sure and work with Dominique and whoever is needed to work with that to do that. And I'm fine with that as well. But like I said, from working at a youth center and done tons of flyers, what I've learned is the more words you put on it, the less likely somebody is going to read it.
That's exactly what my point was. Why I suggested that you put half of what you've got on here on the back, so that you have a small amount of text on one side, but it gives you the points, you know, and then you move over to the back side for some more points.
Yeah, no matter what's like, you ask somebody to flip over read, no matter how much you put on it, the information. So I think that's when we decided to go with here and not have a front to back, and then keep the English and Spanish together. Because right now I have a whole bunch of flyers from our last printout just sitting in English and Spanish in my room, and it's just not cost effective from what we've talked about. But we
Randy?
Yes, can you hear me?
I do agree that we need to have when our meetings are. I wonder if we can add just a line like after who we are. Just a one thing that says like our meetings are
mean
the first Wednesday of the month.
Yeah, we can do that. The first, yeah. I think
And
that's
then,
the easiest thing. We can put that in who we are. We can put that even under the address, but to make, that's a small thing that we can put in, and I'm fine with that.
Anyone else have any comments or suggestions? I don't see any other hand raised, but I am gonna take back, Carol, those comments and get together with Randy and Diego and keep working on it, because I do think that in a way this says a lot. My idea was to have this like a 8x10 where it could be displayed somewhere and, you know, be on a wall somewhere, and then have something that's smaller that has less words that could be printed in a 5x6, but it is a lot of other stuff. So anyways, thank you everyone for those suggestions. Thank you, Carol. We'll bring it back. We might just send an email if we're able to finalize it before with the final with the suggestions you made. And then we have events coming up in the month of June, July, you know, the summer months. And so we really need to get this stuff out to start doing our outreach. Okay.
Thank you for all your hard work on this, you guys.
So if we, okay, Commissioner Hegstrom, your turn. Should I share the letter as well, or do you want to share that? I mean,
You could share the letter. So here's what this is all about. We are supposed to, as a commission, when we reach a verdict on one of our cases, we're supposed to within 30 days send a letter to the chief of police that the chief is then supposed to respond within 30 days. And this is sort of how we have our power. This is our one little piece of power that we have, is to give the letter to the chief, and then the chief has to respond and say either he or she agrees or disagrees with what we are doing, and then what they're going to do about it, you know, how they're going to react to what we've done. So I would like very much to do this, to get a letter. So I just roughly threw something together to as a template that we can use each time we finish a case. So there's a couple things we need to think about. One is for cases that have already been passed, we've missed our 30-day deadline. What are we going to do about that? But going forward, we could just, the idea was to write it a template that we just fill it in after we've made the decision, and then send that along with the investigator's report to the chief. And then, you know, and then at least we're getting what we're supposed to get done. So I don't know if
Great.
anybody's had a chance to read the letter.
no, I did. And thank you so much for putting it together. I just need our council to review this, and if approved, well, you know, I would want to send letters even if it's been past the time. Right?
I think so too. I just think we have to figure out how we're going to make, the chief doesn't have to do it in 30 days if we're already late. So there's more, I would think we should extend the time limit on those, would be my thought, but.
Randy? And then Oscar.
Commissioner Garcia was before me this time. I know that for sure.
Oh, boy. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. So I wanted to see how we're planning, or what's the idea of seeking a response in light of what we just heard in terms of staffing levels. I'm not saying, you know, this is a bad idea, but can we maybe focus it to cases that do require an actual response from the chief, perhaps, and really press for those instead of sending a ton and perhaps overwhelming, and then perhaps increasing the odds of getting zero response?
Well, just to answer you, that our ordinance says that within 30 days of hearing a case, that we send the letter to the chief. I don't think it has to be an onerous job for the chief. They can just say, look, I read I see this, and either whatever, I agree, I disagree, and here's what I did. I don't think and especially in a case where it isn't an important case, I think that they, if we don't hear the case, we don't have to send it. But I think we should just get in the habit of doing it as we're supposed to, instead of trying to like weed out, where do we draw the line of when we send a letter or when we don't. I think we should just do what the ordinance says we should do.
Yeah, I mean, we can also just focus on those that we actually want a response in, is really what I'm saying. Because what I'm hearing is we want responses on all of them. And if I were to bet, that will reduce the odds of getting a response or a good response or even a response. So that's just my 2 cents, given the staffing.
Thank you, Oscar. Randy?
My question more toes to the legality of it, seeing that we have been passed a lot of times, and we haven't sent this letter, and I want to ask, I'm gonna lean on Bruce on this and what happens. Like, are we in trouble for not sending those letters when we were supposed to send those letters? Even if we do send out those letters, do the police have to respond to those just because we sent it because it's way past the date we were supposed to send them? We just send them because it's a courtesy and we're just trying to catch up. Like, those are the questions that I have. I think the letter is great. I think we do need to get a habit. That's our job. We do need to get a habit of getting those letters sent out. I'm kind of with Oscar on the fact that, like, not saying it's going to be a good response or a bad response, but like, like, how is the chief going to go back to something that was in 2018 and think if it was a good or a bad, like I agree with the decision. And that's maybe where that is, but I'm more focused on the legality of that to make sure that we're compliant, because what you said, we haven't done it. And, what I'm saying, I'm about accountability. We haven't done it. What's the problem with that? So if Bruce can answer that, if he can.
So a couple of things. I'm not going to be the CPRC police, pun intended. My suggestion would be that if you want to get in the habit of doing it, you do it prospectively. Going back, especially with the backlog that we had because we didn't have an investigator, and trying to do it with all of the stuff that Jerry has. You've got an interim chief who wasn't a chief when a lot of these incidents happened. My suggestion is that you do it prospectively. I can only recall one where we did actually send the letter and we got a response, and that was on the PD Perez case. Because of the nature of it, we did send the letter with the report, and the then chief did respond. But bombarding the current interim chief with 20 or 30 letters, and of course, and having him read the reports that have come along with those, because it says attached is the report, and in order for him to see whether he would agree, he would have to read the report. And some of Jerry's reports Jerry's reports are very thorough, and some of them, as you have all attested to, are long, and there are videos that are concerning that go along with them. So I guess that was a long way of saying that I don't think it's probably a good idea for you guys to do a retrospective look back. I think that you should probably try and do this going forward. And I know that there's nobody that's out there looking to say, police commission, you guys are bad people because you haven't done this in the past. And therefore we're gonna, smack you on the wrist because you haven't been sending letters to the chief.
Okay, thank you for that, Bruce. So are we,
Yeah, thank you.
are we ready? Any other comment before we vote on?
The only other thing is I have not reviewed the letter. There may be some edits that I want to do to tweak it. But what I did just glance through, the general idea is okay. I might wordsmith it a little bit. But other than that, the sentiment of what Carol has put together is fine as far as I'm concerned.
So we can vote on it, and then you might make some minor changes to it.
Well, you could vote on a letter.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll vote on the letter and then you can finish the fight,
You
finish
can
off the
vote on
letter
the
first.
letter and you can
Okay.
finalize
Yeah.
it with the edits. Okay, so are
Can we vote
ready?
on this? Can we vote on the sentiment?
Yeah.
No, we have to vote on the letter.
Yeah, you have to vote on
And
what's on
somebody
the
needs to
agenda.
make a motion.
Actually, no.
Yeah, I'll
no,
make the motion that we.
No. Hold on, Randy.
Oh,
Hold on.
okay. I'll shut
Because
up.
it's a public meeting and the letter is what's been put up there. If you want to move on it, you have to move on what's there because that's what's on the agenda. My changes to it is not on the agenda and the public would not have had a chance to review them. So if you want to vote on the letter on what's there.
Okay, so it sounds like we can, Bruce, are you able to review this before our next meeting so that we're able to vote on whatever?
He said
edits
we could
made?
vote on what's there, Yenny. So let's vote on what's there.
No,
That's
I
not-
would make the motion. I would make the suggestion that I'll have Bruce add it, make his little changes and come back next month with what changes he had and then vote on it in that way. So we're not doing this twice.
Bruce, do you think that we could vote on it? I thought you said that we could vote on it now.
No, I did initially, but then I remembered that this item is on the agenda. We've already shown the letter. The public has seen it. So we can't vote on something that the public has not seen.
Again, I am going to move this item to next month to be voted on once Bruce does the edit. So what I was asking Bruce is, are you?
Yes, there's the answer.
To get this, okay. Very well, so I'll follow up with you on that. Thank you. Any other, I think that's it on the new business. Thank you, Carol, for putting that together. That was wonderful. And I thought it was fine, but I did, I'm happy that Bruce is here. We got that going. So any public speakers before we move on to our closed session?
No.
And I just want to let the public know, and the rest of the folks, it's gonna be, hopefully it's not as long, but it is 3 cases that we have to review in closed session. So just keep your mind on that. Yes, Randy.
You just get public comment?
Mm-mm. No, I asked
No.
and Dominique said there were none.
Oh, okay.
No, that was that for the closed session or was that public comment on the new business? Yenny.
I did for the closed session.
Okay.
Yeah, just making sure. Cool.
All right, I will see
Okay,
you all
so-
in the other.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah, go back to the other meeting. Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for waiting. I don't think we have any, oh, we do, oh, yes, we still have some attendees. So thank you so much for being patient. Do we have everyone that's here? I think we have everyone. Okay.
Hey, Bruce, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What do we do? So Andre wasn't on his thing, but he's on now.
What wasn't on his?
When we were in session,
No, he was there for except for one vote. He was
Okay.
there.
Alright.
So we had a quorum and he was there for 2 of the 3.
cool.
Okay, so
This one, huh?
I will report out from closed session. In closed session, the commission considered 3 complaints, and I will go in the order that they were taken. Complaint number 2021-6 of Mr. Lenowitz and / Rader. The commission voted 6 affirmative, 0 negative, and 2 absences to accept the report of the investigator. And by the same vote, the commission voted 6-0 with 2 absences to accept the recommendation of not sustained as to the allegations made by in the complaint of Mr. Lenowitz and Rader. In complaint number 2018-5 of Mr. Washington, the commission voted 5 affirmative with 3 absence to accept the recommendation, accept the report of their investigative officer. And by the same vote, 5-3, voted to accept the recommendation that the allegations were unfounded. And on the last complaint, the commissioners voted, and I should have said what the votes were, so I'll go back and do that. The last complaint of Mr. Washington, the yes votes were by Chair Garcia, Vice Chair Tunis, Commissioner Oscar Garcia, Commissioner Randy Joseph, Commissioner Carol Hegstrom, and absent at the time were the Commissioner Diego Garcia, Andre Jackson, and Stephen Lacey. And that was the same vote on the recommendation. On the complaint of Lenowitz and Rader, the yes votes were Chair Garcia, Vice Chair Tunis, Commissioner Oscar Garcia, Commissioner Randy Joseph, Commissioner Andre Jackson, Commissioner Carol Hegstrom to accept the report, and the same votes to accept the recommendation of not sustained. And on the last matter, a complaint number 20816 of Mr. Hayes, the commission voted 6 with 6 yes, no no's with 2 absences, and that was Chair Garcia, Vice Chair Tunis, Commissioner Oscar Garcia, Commissioner Randy Joseph, Commissioner Andre Jackson, and Commissioner Carol Hegstrom, with Commissioners Oscar Garcia, Diego Garcia, and Stephen Lacey being absent, to accept the report on the recommendations of the investigative officer in 4 different areas to first find that there was no violation of the First Amendment, and in 3 different stages of use of force, 1 of recommendation of exonerated, and 2 recommendations of not sustained. The commission voted, there was a 3-3 tie with 2 absences, so no recommendation was made, with Commissioners Oscar Garcia, Randy Joseph, and Andre Jackson voting yes, and Chair Yenny Garcia, Vice Chair Dao Tunis, and Commissioner Carol Hegstrom voting no. with Commissioners Diego Garcia and Stephen Lacy being absent. And those were the decisions made in closed session.
Okay, thank you for that. We will move on to CPR business. Anyone have any comment or update? Okay, well, I am happy to report that we finally have our own canopy and table and chairs for any event we want to host. Yay! Which brings me to the next event that's like really around the corner, which is the Juneteenth parade. We haven't reached out to participate in the parade or in the festival, so I don't know how everyone's schedule is, if this is something that the CPRC wants to do or participate in. Let me know. Otherwise, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be sharing a calendar with the events in the city. And if you have events that are happening within your networks, please share with us where we may be able to host a table, and then that way the CPRC can start coming out to do outreach in our community. Any other update or questions? Okay, so if being none, we are, oh, go ahead, Randy, Joseph.
How do people volunteer to go to this Juneteenth event?
That's exactly what I was going to say. We need to get people.
Just tell me now. Tell me now, because we need to send the application and
usually
saying that we want to be there.
I think we should do it. Usually, since I'm Black, I don't work on Juneteenth. I think that's a national holiday.
It's
but
not
I'll be
it's
there.
not on Juneteenth though. It's on the 18th Saturday.
I don't work.
20th.
I don't work that whole time, but I'll volunteer. To
Okay.
support.
Right. So are you speaking about just doing the parade, which is in the morning, or also the festival?
I would probably do the festival, because the parade I probably do with the Rise. So
Okay.
So I'll be there at the festival with my
Hey,
CPLC.
can I interrupt really quick? Randy, Randy, do you have an update? What's the deal with the Rise opening?
I'll get that at the end.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay, so if Randy, if you want to go be at the festival, then I'll connect with you. Is anyone else interested? And when I send an email out, I can see. I could do the parade, but I can't do the festival because I have other commitments. But that would be great if you're able to. And if we have our flyer finalized by then, we can get support from Dominique to get these printed out. And I'm happy to support you with getting stuff there that you need.
Appreciate it. And I got pins.
So let me know if there's a time that, I can't do all day, but I could, if you need a break or something at a certain period of time, I could, on Saturday, is that when it is? On the 18th?
Yes.
So I'll be in town. If you need help, let me know.
I think that would be great, so he can get a bathroom break or something, go around.
We really should have two people at the table, because that,
I agree.
if I remember from the thing before, it had these big heavy weights that you had to use to hold it down, the canopy down and everything. So I don't know.
If not, I'm good. I'm strong.
Yeah, I couldn't do it by myself. So
Okay.
So yeah,
send
so
an
let me
email
know.
out to you and Randy, and we'll connect offline to do that. Okay, sounds great. Any other updates from commissioners? Yeah.
I'll go. So Rise, as people may know, the Rise grand opening was postponed due to the rise in COVID rate in the city of Richmond, and it impacting our center as well. So we're going to postpone it until after we're in the process of constructing a health center. And so we're going to postpone the grand opening and like the grand opening celebration to after the health center is completed. But the center is open for youth to come in. And if anybody would like a tour of the space, you can just send me an email and you can come get a tour of the space, and I can go through it and walk around. We can talk about the aspects of that. So if anybody wants a one-on-one tour, please feel free to reach out to me. You're able to get a one-on-one tour. It goes without saying that COVID is real. It is still affecting people, especially in Richmond. It is getting people at high rates. COVID did not go bye-bye. So please make sure that if you have or have not, please take safety, wear masks in public spaces. Please be vaccinated. I know it's not the news thing that's happening now and people forgot about it and want to care about Johnny Depp news and other things, but that is still going on and it's still affecting our community. So please mask up if possible. Please social distance. If not, get vaccinated if you can. Get tested if you feel pain. Don't go out. If you know you're sick, stay your butt home. Don't go out. I also want to talk about just that, I want to put on a public record that I'm in Texas right now, and being in a place where the shooting is happening and hearing that there's mass shootings continually happening over and over again, is that, you know, I'm tired of thoughts and prayers. I'm tired of moments of silence because I don't feel like that's doing anything justice. We need to, as the powers that be, help our people that's supposed to do their job and make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen, to make sure they're held accountable and to make sure things like this happen. That voting does matter. So please get out and vote to get people in charge to make these changes, because it makes no sense that more than 3/4 of the country wants sensible gun laws and 50 people are the reason why it's being held up. We need to make that change. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, any other commissioners? Okay, yes, thank you for bringing to get out and vote. If you haven't already voted, please do so. There's so many important elections that are happening in our county and our city, so please do that. There is an event that I will be hosting. If you have Spanish speaking folks within your networks that don't know where or how to vote, the Latina Center is hosting a Facebook Live. I'll be one of the moderators this Friday, June 2nd at 12, Facebook Live. And so, yeah, it'll be in Spanish, but anyone's welcome to join, and then after share it within your networks so that we get everybody out there to vote. All right, we're gonna end with Carol's comment, and then we can have a good night.
Sorry, that was an accident.
Oh.
I was trying to open the window and I think I clicked my mouse.
All right, well, since we are finished, thank you everyone for your time and your patience. We will adjourn this meeting at 9:28.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
everyone.